Audiobook Academy. Book Summary. Pantagruel. By Francois Rabelais. The first few chapters are devoted to introducing the protagonist. His early life, including his youth and adolescence, as well as his move to Paris, are all depicted. The liberation of previously occupied territory serves as a poignant reminder of his triumphant return to his homeland. At first glance, the book appears to be a biography of the main character, but deeper examination reveals that it lacks a beginning, a narrative twist, and a conclusion, all of which the author used at random only to intersperse the event. In addition, he peppers the story with quotations, parodies, and discussions. Between stories and anecdotes, the novel's plot lies. An entire family tree is given in the first chapter of the novel Pantagruel, which details the Pantagruel's origins. During his birth, his mother is described as having died. Then, his childhood and upbringing are discussed. Teacher and mentor Epistemon was responsible for his upbringing, schooling, and career development. When Pantagruel finished his studies in Paris, he met Panurge, who had been imprisoned in Turkey, and Panurge recounted his story to him. Afterwards, Pantagruel is forced to take part in a courtroom debate. Because the International Court Council was unable to make a decision, he ended up serving as the final arbitrator. A useless verdict was reached, but Pantagruel's decision was accepted by everyone. It's back to Panurge's perspective now, as he begins to recount his life tale. Talks about being held prisoner in Turkey and how he was able to break away. In the next chapters, he will continue to play a significant role. Even some of his ideas, like his erecting a wall around Paris, are revealed to us. Thaumast, an English thinker, was also introduced to Panurge. A debate erupted over the subject of hands. After that, Panurge attempted to woo a Parisian lady to his liking, but he was unsuccessful. Until he learned of his father's death, Pantagruel had an entertaining existence in Paris. He spent his days having fun with Penrouge. His utopia, the place where he was born, had been attacked by dipsits. In the end, he chose to free the kingdom, and his companions came to aid him. He was able to beat 660 troops with the help of Panurge, Epistemon, and Euston. To utilize him as a slave, they kept only one alive. A party was planned to mark the end of a successful combat. To let their adversaries know of their triumph, they've dispatched a prisoner. The king Anarchy and his troops were ordered to surrender by Pantagruel. Pantagruel and his companions embarked on a new adventure. They fought giants and captured their foes in the midst of the battle. It was they that beat Loup-Garou, the king's lieutenant who had formed an alliance with the king. Amurath held a festival in honor of Pantagruel because of his bravery and quests, notably his battle with dipsits. Invited everyone after the ceremony to join him in defeating the dipsits for good, Pantagruel. They returned to their realm, where they faced off against Almirids. Pantagruel shielded everyone from the sudden rain with his tongue before the onslaught. The storytellers suddenly enter Pantagruel's bowels. After 6 months, he tells him that they defeated Almirids and that he will give him a seigneury. As a result of Pantagruel's illness, the first spas were established around Europe, including in Italy and France. The author leaves us with a tidbit regarding future Pantagruel books and escapades. When Pantagruel meets Limousin and Panurge for the first time, Panurge responds to him in 14 other languages, which the author devotes a significant amount of attention to in this novel's 6th chapter. A judicial debate between Humevence and Basicule takes place in the 10th to 13th chapters. They may be correct in grammar, but Basicule's phrases are incomprehensible when put together. This is a parody of a courtroom argument. In chapters 18 and 19, Panurge converses with the Englishmen. They had a one-on-one conversation that was unique since they used just their hands to communicate. It was a satirical device employed by the author to make fun of the mundane topic at hand. He was of the opinion that despite the length of the debates, little was spoken about them. An abundance of proverbs, names and book titles are mentioned by this author. A list of all of Pantagruel's ancestors takes up 2.5 pages in the first chapter of the book. Book recommendations from a Paris library fill 6 pages of the 7th chapter. The 34 chapters of the book show that the author is prone to enumeration, piling up of knowledge. Often, he employs large numbers in situations that have little to do with reality. In the novel, we may simply conclude that it lacks a narrative structure. There is no beginning, middle, or end to this story. Even though he used them in several of his works, he didn't include them into the overall storyline of the book. The novel's genesis can be traced back to the traditions of knighthood and folklore. Names from legend inspire the main character. Patti, Greek for I want to say everything, and gruel, Greek for he wants to speak thirsty, are the author's pseudonyms. The author frequently employs the grotesque to illustrate how death and rebirth are inextricably linked, just as destruction is necessary for the process of creation. Pantagruel drank milk from 4,600 cows as a baby, according to the novel, which also mentions large quantities of food and drink. In his story, Rabelais frequently refers to feces and other bodily fluids. To defeat an army, in the 28th chapter, Pantagruel urinated on them. Later, in the 32nd chapter, he used his urine to build baths in Italy and France. According to the author, waste and feces herald a new era of life. 1483 or 1484 was the year that Francois Rabelais was born. As a wealthy landowner and government official, his father had a significant impact on the lives of many. A few decades later, Rabelais entered the University of Paris to study law. La Baumettes convent was founded in 1510 by the Franciscans. He had been a monk at Fontenay-le-Comte for 10 years when this happened. When he ran into issues with the convent's management and church authorities in the mid-16th century, he moved to the Benedictine convent of Malzies, where he worked as the secretary to Bishop Geoffroy d'Estissac. A year after publishing Pantagruel under a pseudonym in 1532, he decided to quit the convent because of the book's explicit content. He then went on to study medicine. He married and had 2 children before deciding to pursue a profession in medicine full-time. He has a job in the south of France, but he later moved to Lyon to work. After moving to Rome, he became the secretary of Cardinal du Bellay, a position he held until his death. He followed him to Ferrara. His work, Gargantua, may have been published a year after he returned to England. His companion and protector, Bishop Geoffroy, accompanied him on his second trip to Rome. His request was granted by the Pope and he returned to the Benedictine order once more. He graduated from Montpellier's University in 1537 with a doctorate in medicine. When he had his second child, he went 11 years without publishing a single item. In spite of the fact that his works were once again prohibited, he managed to publish a third book that was the sequel to the first 2. Even though he was under the protection of King Louis XVI of France, he refused to use a pen name. The third book, too, was a no-no. It was at this point that Rabelais opted to join the Protestant Germans in Metz. During this period, he published the fourth book in Lyon and returned to Rome to meet with Cardinal du Bellay. Later, the king permitted the publication of the work after another 4 years of royal approval. In 1933, he was killed in Paris. The fourth book and the fifth book sequels were published posthumously. Thank you for listening in Audiobook Academy. Don't forget to subscribe and smash that like button for more content like this. See you in next video.